first cohort of from the diploma. They began last November and just finished up last week, and it was very exciting to have our first group complete all 3 courses and the capstone. So moving on to the next slide, and of course you should ask questions in the chat window as we go along. The diploma is made of 3 courses. The first one is design thinking. And I like to say that this diploma really gives you the full spectrum of innovation in the way it is practiced now. So you can take many other courses where you get 1 or 2 pieces of this, but in this diploma, our goal is to give you both the fundamentals, the frameworks, things like design thinking, where you'll learn about empathy, and where you'll learn frameworks for everything from brainstorming to converting your observations into needs and understanding how to define needs and communicate those to other people, and then to learn how to actually create solutions that serve those needs and test those solutions. So all those tools and techniques that are sort of fundamental. And then taking a step back and saying, well, the core piece of that depends on you being able to come up with an innovative solution. And that's where most people need help or need to develop their skills. And that's why we build in this breakthrough innovation course, because it gives you some very unique and effective skills for generating new ideas. And then comes the last piece, the strategy is innovation piece. And this, some of you may be familiar with the concept of 3-box innovation, which has been around for about 15 to 20 years, originated by Vijay Govindarajan. And that's what's the core of this course. And what it really means is, how do you take this innovation, these great ideas and these solutions that you have come up with, and get them done? Especially if you are in a large organization where it is often more difficult to change the way people are doing things, or bring in new ways of doing things, or originate new products or services in an organization that is used to doing things in one particular way, or delivering a certain subset of products or services. And so we've always felt that it's not enough to know design thinking and to know idea generation. You really have to know how to effectively execute that innovation in an organization, which is what strategy is innovation teaches you. And then finally, you have the opportunity to put everything together in your capstone project. And so we come back to the beginning, the design thinking, and work through all the skills and techniques. You have the opportunity to apply them in a project that you do with a team over the final several weeks. So I'm just looking over here at the chat, and I see Arvind asking if the slides will be shared, and the answer is absolutely yes. After each live session, the slides as well as the recording are posted on the webinars page on your learning platform, so you'll have access to them. In most cases, possibly not today because it's just the intro webinar, but in most cases you will have access to those slides in advance of the webinar, so you can download them and you'll be able to follow along with the webinar as you go. So there's on the learning platform, there's a webinars page and probably an office hours page where you'll always be able to find the links to these sessions and the recordings and the slides. So I hope that was a good quick introduction to how the diploma is going to work. Here's an overview of what you can expect. On average, you'll be doing 4 to 6 hours a week, divided amongst watching videos, sometimes participating in a live session, maybe watching a recording of a live session, engaging in a discussion with your fellow students, and doing assignments. Sometimes those are individual assignments, sometimes those are team assignments, and the combination of those things is usually about 4 to 6 hours in a week. And you'll be doing that over the course of the 9 months. There are break weeks. In the case of this run, there'll be an extra break week for the holidays that happen at the end of the year. But normally there's a 1 week break in between each course to give you a chance to catch up and take a breather before you dive into the next one. So that's my overview of the diploma. I want to leave most of the time for Jenny to introduce the design thinking course. And so I'm going to take this moment to introduce Jenny. I don't know, you probably don't have a slide on there introducing yourself here. There's a picture of the course leaders. So Jenny Buck has been a course leader on our design thinking courses, and also the longer version of design thinking called Mastering Design Thinking. For, I can't even count how many runs you've done, Jenny, you probably know, but it's getting upwards around 10 or so. Jenny has a background in both in design of products and services, has worked for big design companies like IDEO and Frog Design, has also done all kinds of design in terms of medical devices, also is a jewelry designer as well, and has most recently been working on design of responses to disasters, to natural disasters. Believe it or not, yes, design thinking applies in situations like that as well. It's not just for building products, new innovative products. And so Jenny brings this huge breadth of experience of applying design thinking in a variety of fields and services and products. And I strongly encourage you to tap her expertise, whether that's in the discussions online, during the office hours that Jenny's going to be holding with you throughout the course, and really even just in asking questions about the assignments and things like that. You will benefit tremendously from her experience, both in practice, but also in teaching this course as well. So Jenny will be the one giving you feedback on assignments and helping you through the course. You'll also meet Ellie Eaton, who has almost as or a little even longer experience teaching these courses. And Ellie will be with you partially during the design thinking course, but also will be your course leader for the breakthrough innovation course and the strategy is innovation courses as well. He teaches all three. He is also an expert practitioner at this. He led the innovation practice at Amdocs, a big telecommunications firm out of Israel for about 10 years. He's now an independent consultant. He consults to many different companies in helping them to develop their innovation pipelines, and also train their people in things like design thinking and breakthrough innovation. And so you'll be happy to meet Ellie, who will also be engaging with you in some of the webinars in this course, and also sometimes the office hours as well. So you have two fantastic course leaders for this design thinking and for the entire diploma. And then in the background, I want to introduce some of the people that you might not see, but who are always here to support you. So you'll see Laura Gifford's picture there. She's the academic delivery manager responsible for this course. So she will be in the background making sure our course leaders are always supported with the materials they need, and but also making sure that you get what you need when you need it. So you may be hearing from her occasionally. She also works with a support team in Mumbai. So I don't have pictures of those, but Feroz, Sharanjeev, Ganesh, other people like that, Roshan, will all be in the background. And they are the people who are continuously responding to your questions on the support ticket. So anytime you click support and ask a question, you'll be hearing from them. They have run the course many times, are very familiar with it, and will always be there to help you find what you need, get access to what you need. So a big team here to support you as you work through this diploma. We are very much looking forward to sharing this experience with you over the next 9 months. We'll get to know you well. You'll get to know each other well. And so that's really what I just want to say is welcome and best of luck as you begin this journey. And now I'm going to turn things over to Jenny to introduce you to the first course in the diploma, the Design Thinking.
Fantastic. Thank you, Glenn. It's always a pleasure to have you come join us for these. I'm going to go back in the slide here for just a moment. And you all have a write-up on Professor Eppinger available on Canvas. So I'm not going to go in depth into this, but what I will say is that he is one of the most renowned professors within this field. And he is the co-director of the System Design and Management program at MIT, which is a program that combines design and engineering and business. So you will see how that plays out in his courses. But when you get a chance, do go back and read on Steve Eppinger. He is also the author of probably the most widely used book on product design and development, not only in the United States, but I suspect at this point around the world. If I remember correctly, the 7th edition of this book may have just come out this summer. You've met all of us. I will also say program support is here with us when we're doing the videos like this. They're a fantastic bunch that also back up Ellie and me when we're doing this work. You can reach them through the program support button. I will suggest that when you need to reach Ellie or me, that you go into Canvas and you use the email service that is within Canvas to reach us. That is the fastest way to get a response from us. I will also note for you that most of your interactions with us will be on team projects. We don't necessarily know when you've submitted or resubmitted a team project, so it's always very handy if you email us through Canvas if there's something you want us to see fast or something you want to discuss about those submissions. I wanted to talk a little bit about all of you for a moment as we enter this course. The various countries that come into this course are probably one of the greatest things for us when we are the course leaders, but it's also one of the greatest things for you folks as far as the ability to learn. There aren't that many places that you can go. There aren't that many live places you can go to get this many different perspectives, to get this many backgrounds and flows of experience. So right now we have a decent portion from Australia, the United States, South Africa, Canada, Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, Singapore, United Kingdom, and Greece. We also have a smaller percentage from a whole bunch of others that makes up 36%. So that 36% is all various countries with less than 3%. So you can tell how many other countries there are potentially in that number. Work experience. To give you an idea, 38% of you have more than 20 years of experience. If we go to 15 years of experience, somewhere over 60% of you have more than 15 years experience out in the workforce. Again, this is a fantastic source of learning from all of you, the ability to learn from each other, not just from Professor Eppinger's lectures. So do keep that in mind. Do reach out and make contact with people that interest you, and do see what you can share from your experience with other people also. Industries that you come from. We have consulting. We have a large percentage from both consulting and education. Education is an interesting one that has been growing here. We have healthcare, software and professional services, IT products, energy, telecommunications, real estate. We have two others in there. I think we had an others that was something that was labeled a little bit differently previously. One of the other areas that's been very interesting to me to watch grow recently is textiles. So we've had quite a number of people from textiles in this course within the last few runs also. Pre-course survey. So we asked a number of questions of you all as you entered this course. And I want to give you an idea of what the breakdown is of what we learned from you all. 76% of respondents are planning to apply these skills to their current role. This is probably where we wanted to make sure you could apply this course. Our intention is to give you bite-sized pieces that you can go and test out immediately. They're not pieces that you have to wait to the end of the course to make sure you understand everything before taking home and working with them. So particularly for them, but also for all the rest of you, look for places in your life that you can just go out and start using some of the techniques, some of the tools, some of the examples that we talk about. And make that a part of your ongoing experience, not something that you're waiting until the end of the course to look into. We've got others within the course. We've got a numeric problem here. I would say that's supposed to be, numbers are a little bit unusual on our course survey here. But still, the largest percentage are using it in their current job. And we've got a good number of people that are looking to change their job or careers or to learn something new. So pre-course survey again, in what role do you expect to apply what you learn? And I do see that the program that has fed out these numbers for Emeritus has some interesting math going on here, but you can still see what the largest and the smallest percentages are to give you an idea of how that breakdown falls. So the largest percentage are employees, managers, and executives in large firms. And this is a good sequence, these three courses, for those of you that are in larger firms, because that final SII course is specifically geared to what you can do to move this through a larger company, which is, it's more challenging culturally in that larger company than it tends to be in smaller companies and startups. A lot of people are either independent consultants or working for consulting firms. And here we go. How would you describe your current ability to apply design thinking? So we have a fair number that have limited or no experience in this. That really isn't an issue coming into this course. We are expecting to start from square one, but we don't think that will slow down those of you that do have stronger, moderate, or stronger abilities. Do realize you do have some people within this course that are strong in this area or are experts in this area. And remember to take advantage of them also as you move through this course. I'm going to slow down here for just a moment, and I want to glance through some of the most recent postings here and see whether there are a couple of questions that we should go over now. And before I do that, I want to point out something to you about Zoom. So right now, we've been using the chat window for all of our communication. The chat window, especially when there are a lot of you in the course, can at times start flowing by quite rapidly, and we can lose some of the questions that you want to make sure you can get answered. If you go to that same bar where you found the chat window, you will see a Q&A. So the Q&A is going to open up a different window for you. When you put a question into the Q&A, it stays there and doesn't flow on up the way the chat window does. I will warn you that there are going to be some, for example, office hours. It's quite frequently in office hours that we'll do only the chat window because there will be a smaller number of people and we want to make sure that everybody's interacting together. But particularly when we're doing webinars, when there are a lot of people, when there's a question you want to make sure we will see, put it over in the Q&A. I know some of you don't necessarily fully identify yourselves in Zoom, and that's your prerogative. That's up to you. But when you do give us at least enough of your name to make you recognizable in Canvas, if we don't get to your question over in the Q&A by the end of the course, test, V. Scott, the test worked. If we haven't gotten to that question by the end of the webinar, we will very frequently go back and email you in Canvas an answer to that question. Sometimes there are questions that come into the Q&A also that whoever is giving the webinar isn't necessarily aware of. So in those cases also, we will go back and find the right person or the right information for you, and then that information will come to you afterwards. So you have both that chat window and the Q&A window. How many total participants joined this course this year? This is from King Shook. Total participants in this course, there's a funny thing there. We run this course a number of times per year. So over the course of the year, there have been quite a few hundreds of people in this course. I don't know the exact number, but it's pretty high. In this specific course, I believe here from the pre-course survey, it looks like 126. Denise, that looks like about the number that I'm expecting too. I'm expecting somewhere between 110 and 140 would be my guess on that. The percent does not add up. Yes, Ramesh, we have to go back and check the program that's generating these slides for us because those numbers were not correct. I agree with you on that. You were able to select more than one result. Ah, here we go. V. Scott just solved it for us. I have not gone back and taken that pre-course survey. So we had some people selecting multiple ones then. That makes a lot more sense. Okay. Arvind, yes, generally we do share examples of how the various concepts are applied. You'll see that as we go through. You will also see additional examples very frequently in office hours. So you will get examples through Professor Eppinger in his lectures. You will get some examples through Ellie and through me as we give the webinars. You will get some examples through the office hours. And then you will additionally get reference materials where you can read on other, what is frequently other examples that various companies have used. So no idea, then multiple answers, an unknown completion rate, touche. Denise nailed it. What we might have to do is go back and change that to you may only select the most important ones so that we can get some relevant information. Can't find the school in Canvas. Atulb, I suspect you will find an email in your inbox from when you signed up for this course that will show you how to find this course in Canvas. Program support, if you folks are on and listening right now, if you could give Atulb any information on how he would do that. Usually Atulb, what happens is you go to the main Canvas page and then you log in. It could be that you're joining this course is creating a different screen than other courses if you've taken other courses through Canvas again. So you may have to enter separately for this than other courses that you've taken in the past through other schools. Search emeritus, yeah. I couldn't find an emeritus, but it did work. There you go. It did work when I followed the student.emeritus.org. Okay, nothing working. So yeah, program support, if you're on, Atul might need some help on this one. Atul, you know what, maybe if you put a question over in the Q&A, that'll stay around, and program support can take a look over there too. Usually though, you'll have a link in your email box and you will click on that and you will probably have to create a new password unless you've taken prior courses and used that same email via Emeritus. Here we go. Program support, thank you. So we have about 107 right now and anticipating 140. So that makes sense on the 100%. Pawan, you will be joining a team once you are in Canvas. And I believe if you haven't joined in a certain amount of time, you will be thrown on a team so that it doesn't slow down your progress. So do go on and go ahead, and there will be time slots that you can choose. The main thing we use for choosing teams is time slots that all of the people on the team can make. So you'll see a way to select that within Canvas. There you go. How are teams formed for the assignment? That is it. You will go in, you'll pick time slots that work for you, and you'll be able to join teams that way. We do have some banking and financial industry examples as we go through this. King Shuk, let's bring that up as we move through some of this, and you and I can discuss where it might be possible to find some of those as we go on. Okay, King Shuk for banking financial. Okay, Atul. Oh, thank you, program support. So Atul, program support is typing something probably just to you, not to the rest of us within Canvas, but keep an eye out for something from program support directly from you within this webinar chat window. Ramesh, you need to go to the bottom of your chat window and change the to from all panelists to all panelists and attendees. When I'm using a laptop in the marathon, what am I using in general? That is what I generally use. I use a link for Emeritus on my computer, and I rarely do Canvas via mobile, but I would use the app when I'm in Canvas for mobile. So those are the two best ways to do it. What exactly are the office hour sessions for? So the office hour sessions, when we get to the very end of this webinar, we'll discuss that a little bit more. They are a review very frequently of what has either been in Professor Eppinger's video lectures or in Ellie and my webinars. And it's often a discussion of what you're doing in the team projects, things like that. It's an open time for you to ask questions. So they're somewhat structured to make sure if we don't have questions, we have something to do for that period of time. But they are open to what you want to use them for. It has happened in the past that people have brought some piece of a team project that they're working on, and they've shared it with the other people in the office hours so that we could discuss the pros and cons of what they were doing. Let me see, Alok, you, 2:32 p.m. If we miss a study session due to a clash of commitment, is it okay to catch up offline? In Dublin, the office hours might clash with some live sessions. Definitely. So we would prefer that you do everything you can to make the live sessions with your team. That is why we set you up into teams by those time periods whenever possible. But when it comes to the webinars that Ellie and I give, and when it comes to the office hours, those are recorded, and both the slides and the recording will be made available to you online within 24 hours. Okay, so I think we're caught up. I have a bunch of questions over in the Q&A coming in. The Q&A, again, we can always answer by email later on. I'm worried that I don't want to slow us down too much because we've got a lot to go through. I will come back and take a look at some of the Q&As after we go through some of this lecture. What I would like to start you out with, though, let me just see. let's talk a little bit about the design thinking journey. So the real win and worth it are the focus of what we want you to be thinking about in the course. The real is the people, the win is the technical side, and the worth it is the viable financial side. So at this point, hopefully you've posted a profile. Those of you that are having trouble with Canvas, hopefully we'll do that very, very soon. And you'll be submitting ideas, joining a team and then submitting ideas usually. From there, you're going to, between the group of you, choose an idea to work on. And I want to lay this out a little bit for you. Some of you are going to be very interested in an area you're already working in. That's great to discuss with your team. Your team as a whole is going to have to choose something in the end, no matter what. Some of you may be interested in working on something that you have, an area that you haven't necessarily had experience before. It's a growth opportunity. Emeritus doesn't make any claim on things like patent on what you folks are doing the way a university might do if you're doing a course at a university. What I do suggest, though, is if you have an idea that you think is your best idea in the world and it's going to make you the next Steve Jobs, don't use it for the project here. Use something else that you can use as a learning experience here that you can share with other people, that you can do trial and error on, but don't do something that you feel you need to be secretive about. You're going to get much more out of this course if you're working on something that you can keep discussing with people in an ongoing manner. You're going to learn to identify user needs. This is a big part of design thinking, and this is really, really critical. So be ready to dive deep into those user needs. You'll then be applying various forms of creativity towards developing solutions. And you'll be considering user service experience. Now, user service experience obviously comes in apps and service design. It also comes in products. That is an area that should be looked at thoroughly all the way across. You'll be considering financials. And this is net present value. It is not very deep in financials, but it's taking a guess at how you're going to raise money and how you're going to earn money besides raising money, and how long it might take you to the point that you break even and start having an income from this company. It will all be guesses, but those guesses help you get an idea of what may and may not work. We'll be discussing design for the environment. And then you'll be working on your capstone, which will be finishing up the team project that you've been working through this entire process. And then we'll have a number of you, this will be a small number of you, present some of the most interesting projects at the end. We don't necessarily choose the projects that come back and are, oh my gosh, this is perfect. It's perfect for real. It's perfect for when, it's perfect for worth it. Very often you can learn more from a project where you find that one of those circles is not a win. So those are great discussion points too. And I also want you aware that when we grade, we don't necessarily take any points off as far as grading when you come back and articulately tell us that, wait a second, I realize this area is not going to work. The idea of this course is getting you to iterate rapidly through these tools, through these ideas, to get to the point where you can decide whether this is something you want to move forward with, you want to pivot on, go a slightly different direction, or whether you want to start over and go a different direction altogether. Do also keep in mind that we have to teach this as a course. You aren't necessarily doing all of these things in this exact order in the real world. There may be times that some of them are done in parallel. There may be times that some of them are more important than others, so you're going to be doing them earlier. We're giving you the tools and teaching you how to iterate rapidly. The order can change. And frequently, I think for those of us that have worked in this industry, we probably try to work on a couple of them at once because they cross-pollinate each other as we're moving through this loop. So what is design thinking? Design thinking, more than anything else, is putting the user at the center and realizing that understanding that user's needs is what can push you further, faster, and can bring you to a much more interesting and meaningful solution as you dive into a potential project area. Again, we were just looking at this a moment ago. Real when worth it. People, desirable, technical feasible, and business viable. That sweet spot in the middle of the three of them is where we are expecting the innovation that we want you to reach through this course to reside. So I'm going to do something unusual. We are about to move into the empathy portion of this lecture. So this is your first topic webinar of the sequence. I would like to show you a video first before we start into this, and then we're going to take just maybe we'll make it a 3-minute break in case anyone wants to go get a drink of water or something before we start. I want to show you this video though to get your mindset in the right place as we enter the discussion of empathy. We're not going to discuss this video immediately upon returning. We're going to discuss it at the end of the lecture and reflect back on what it means or why it's important. So we're about to show a lecture. This lecture comes from the Cleveland Clinic. It is not a design firm. This is a medical establishment, but it's a medical establishment that many of the very best design firms I know of and many schools also refer to when they begin talking about things like empathy and design. So let me switch primary screens here. And this is a video related to empathy, again, from the Cleveland Clinic. There are no words. There will be some background music, and there's going to be text on the various slides as you go through it. Welcome back. I'm going to switch back to my primary screen, and you folks have 2 minutes. No, we'll say 3 minutes. I have 9:52 right now. We will start up again at 9:55. Mhm. We have another minute and a half before we're going to get started. I'm just watching a couple of questions go by here. Program support froze. If I remember correctly, the videos, the webinar videos are available for 1 year after the beginning of the course. So it would be 1 year, presumably from either the course start a week or two ago or from today's start right now.
Hi, Jenny. Hi, everybody. Yes, you're absolutely correct. The webinar videos and all the modules, everything, entire content is available for next 1 year.
Yeah. And is it from today or from the course start a week or two ago?
From the end of the course. So after the end of the course.
It is from the end.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Good to know. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Chris, that's a great quote. I like that. Okay, all, we're going to start back up, and we are going to need to keep moving because I want you folks to finish on time, and we've got a lot of ground to cover here. So I hope you found that video meaningful. Again, we'll discuss it at the end. We're not going to discuss it yet right now. I'd love you folks just to type in fast for my reference to come back to. What kind of project you're considering working on? Are you interested in physical projects, services, software or web or app type projects, a combination of some of these, or something else altogether? We're not necessarily going to talk about it now, but this is great for me to come back to so I know what you folks are looking for in the course. Services, a lot of services and apps. Transformation and innovation projects, sure. Okay, services, combination, great. This is a picture out of Professor Eppinger's book. This is the concept development phase. And what I want you to notice about this, go ahead and keep typing in what you want to work on if you haven't had a chance to yet. I'd love to get everybody's answer to that recorded in the chat. What I'd like you to be looking at in this slide is how each of these arrows points backwards, not forwards. Isn't that interesting when you can see that the flow goes from left to right? What those arrows are telling you is that this is an iterative process, and that there are going to be many times that you go back and do some aspects of them over and over again. I'm going to make a plug down at the bottom. You can see the red around build and test models and prototypes. The prototyping in this course is going to come very late in the course. That doesn't necessarily mean that we think you should be doing prototyping that late in the real world. It's a matter of getting you through a series of sequences in a teaching situation. In a real world situation, I would expect you to start doing very rough, very fast, and very cheap prototyping, literally from day one of an exploration of a project area. This is another example sequence. It's the same idea as what you just saw in the slide before, but this one comes from the Interaction Design Foundation. And this one makes it very clear how some of those iterative loops go back upon each other instead of just moving in a straightforward linear fashion. This is another example. This one comes from the Stanford D School. Of how going through this process, at sometimes you're going to be broadening your group of ideas, and other times you're going to be whittling them down as you focus more on various pieces. I love that image from Stanford. So empathy, as Glenn was explaining to you just a little while ago, is where design thinking starts. So empathy is a noun. The ability to understand and share the feelings of another. Good designers, when we're talking in terms of empathy, are open-minded, they're observant, they're good listeners, and they're curious. When we're talking about observant, don't think of observant as only being with your eyes. Observant can be with all of your senses. You know, is some piece, if we're talking about hardware, obviously many of you aren't working on hardware, but with a piece of machinery, if that machinery is vibrating, that's an observation that you see it vibrating, not just that you feel it. Yeah, I'm doing well. Feel it vibrating, not just that you see or even hear it vibrating. So think about observant in every kind of, in each one of your senses when you're going through an area where you're trying to gain knowledge. Here we go. With all your senses, immerse, observe, engage, and put aside your own assumptions. So immerse, experience what the user experiences. If you go to interview someone, if you're talking about a coffee shop and you're interviewing them in a gym, you're losing out about a tremendous amount of information. If you're talking about a coffee shop, you want to do everything you can to interview that person in a coffee shop or doing something related to coffee. Observe, view, hear, etc., users and behavior within the appropriate context. And engage, interact with, and learn from those users. And if at all possible, interact, engage, learn from them as they're doing what you're trying to learn about. Here are a couple quotes to get you started into empathy. Here's a great one from Tim Brown at IDEO. Empathy is at the heart of design. Without the understanding of what others see, feel, and experience, design is a pointless task. There's another one I like from Bill Gates. Your most unhappy customers are your greatest source of learning. So don't just interview people that are happy. It's actually far more productive to interview people that are really frustrated and having problems. So we're going to talk about a bunch of methods or tools that can help you walk into a situation in an empathic manner. What I want you to remember, though, is that these aren't the only ways to do it. These are some good tools that we can talk about today, but always remember that there are more out there than we're giving you here. And be ready to go looking for those when you don't feel like you're finding one that is solving your needs for the project that you're working on. So 5 whys. The 5 whys that I'm using here is a little bit hypothetical. It is giving you an example of the kind of sequence that I think happened within the OXO Good Grips as it was developed. Do any of you know OXO Good Grips? Who does and who doesn't know OXO, the company? They make kitchen tools. So OXO was founded. Let's go back a little bit. There's a great article on the founding of OXO in Fast Company, if you look back through time, 2018. The Untold Story of the Vegetable Peeler That Changed the World. Now, you gotta admit, that's a pretty great title. Sam Farber had sold Copco, I think was the company that he'd sold prior to the creation of OXO. And I think the theory was that he was going to be retiring after selling Copco, but it just wasn't working out very well. He wasn't happy being retired. So he was constantly in contact with Smart Design, which is a design firm that had helped him at Copco, kind of brainstorming what the next thing was that maybe he would work on. If I remember correctly, he and his wife were in France. And I'm going to theorize that maybe they had rented a house or maybe they were staying with friends. And I'm going to theorize that maybe they were in the kitchen when some of these initial conversations came up. What ultimately happened is Sam called Smart Design in the middle of the night from France and said, holy expletive, I know what we're doing next. So the idea of the 5 whys is to dig deeper when you see a problem and try to get to the root of what's going on in that problem. So I want to give a hypothetical. Let's say that Sam and his wife are in the kitchen in some beautiful old house. Maybe it's a small house, but it's a beautiful old house somewhere in France. And I'm going to say that maybe she was peeling potatoes for dinner. So I'm imagining that she probably was in a great deal of pain trying to use a typical peeler. We know she had arthritis. So perhaps Sam says, you know, why do you look upset? Why are you not happy peeling potatoes? Her next comment might have been something along the lines of, because I'm uncomfortable. Why are you uncomfortable? We can theorize that one of her next comments might have been that if she has arthritis, because my hand hurts. This is hurting my hands to do this. Why is your arthritis bothering you while you're using that tool? Because this tool is really hard to hold if you have arthritis. Now, the realization that Sam came to was that he could make a handle that would make this peeler far more comfortable for someone with arthritis to use. Now, there had been millions of peelers in the past, and there still are millions of peelers, but very rarely has somebody thought this deeply about the comfort of a peeler. So Sam and Smart Design went into tremendous explorations, trying to figure out what the most comfortable handle would be. Now, they were creating this handle with a strategy in mind. They were not looking to make a product specifically for someone with arthritis. What they realized as folks with experience in the design industry was if they could get this handle right, and someone with arthritis was comfortable with it, that suddenly other people would be interested in using that product too. There was a second level of the strategy that they were already working on here as they were going through this development process, is if they could get this handle right. This was a handle they were going to use on other products also. So they had a product line, not a product that was the potential from this exploration. And that is where the swivel peeler came from. And I believe it was one of the first uses ever of sandiprene, the flexible material that we saw in so many products not long after. So the next dive that I want to take you through is one that is used by Stanford D School, and I see it out of IDEO sometimes. Excuse me, I'm going to have to grab a glass of water in a moment. We met and we were surprised to realize. So we're going to talk about GE Healthcare and their MRIs for children here. So this is what a typical MRI looks like. It is, what do you think this is designed for? Tell me that. Type in what you think the primary design concerns were for this MRI while I grab a glass of water. Too scary for children. Okay, you guys are jumping ahead of me. So this was probably designed for the optimal visualization from this MRI and for the ease of the doctors and nurses operating it, is what I would theorize. Now, there was a gentleman, and this story is one you can find out on the web in many different places. There was a gentleman from GE Healthcare that was at the Stanford D School, and this was part of his project there, and he came back, and there was a great deal of publicity after it at GE as they found what a tremendously meaningful project this was. So he was looking at the problem of MRIs and trying to think about it in a different way, potentially for children. So you're looking for an observation, something you can infer from that observation, and then you're taking a leap, a big leap, in terms of what hunch you can make out of the insight gained there. So the observation is things like, my brother gets to go to camp, there are no trophies in the rooms of the sick children, and the hunch is that maybe these life-threatening illnesses are sucking adventure out of these kids' lives. So here is the sequence that we go through as far as we were surprised by. So we met Sarah. She's an 8-year-old cancer patient. She's at her hospital visit right now. And we were surprised to realize she was scared and had a tightly managed life. What do you folks think this might lead to as far as wondering what it means? What could you infer from this? Give me some examples. You could actually steal what we said about the last slide and you'd be fine there. She might be scared of taking risks on her own. That's possible. Yep. Anxiety. Yeah, these are all great answers. Tananya hit on probably the closest so far to what was explored in this specific example. So maybe she wants to experience fun in life like other kids. Maybe. So maybe that's worth exploring. So taking that as a hunch, what might it be game-changing to do in this situation? If you want her to experience more fun, what do you think the GE Healthcare designer, Doug Dietz, decided to try to do here. Skira has seen a couple of these images before, I think. You're right. You nailed it. So create an adventure experience in a hospital. So what was birthed out of this was the GEMR Adventure Discovery Series. So here's one that's outer space. Here's one that I think is jungle. And what became so much fun about this is they moved it to other devices also. So it wasn't just MRIs anymore. There's a CT scanner that has this. They've gone to great lengths since the first development of this GE program to make all kinds of devices in hospitals much more exciting and interesting for children. So here's another piece I'd like you to dive into. This isn't truly a tool, but this is so incredibly important. I want you to treat it as though it's a tool. This is the idea of watching for the differences between what people say and what they do. It doesn't necessarily mean those people are lying to you. This is very important. Don't think of it as far as someone lying. But it is something you frequently see in design when you're doing interviews, that people describe something to you one way and what they do isn't the way they're describing it. So Bressler Group was brought in to Alcon to help redesign a cataract scalpel. The problem was that the nurses and doctors were getting cut. So they went out, they interviewed doctors and nurses in the office, and they went and they even, I'm sure they interviewed those doctors and nurses with the equipment in front of them and saw how they did the handoff and things like that. Now, next, what they did is they went and they watched those doctors and nurses in a hospital environment during an actual surgery. Not very frequently, but there are definitely places where you have a surgery operation where you have people behind glass. So they weren't necessarily out there in the operation, but they were able to watch it. What they found is that when that scalpel was handed off, it was not handed off in the way people described, or at least it was not handed off when either something of concern happened, when things started moving faster. So you could see there was the potential for those cuts because there was no way of keeping that scalpel handoff the way it was actually intended to be. So Bressler went and they redesigned a scalpel so that it had a cover with a very easy to pull back a sleeve on it so that it could be handed closed and people would get cut less frequently. The next piece I'd like to talk to you about is assuming the beginner's mindset. And I'm kind of hopping through these fairly rapidly. What I wanted to do is I wanted to get through the pieces on our course, and I want to have enough time to talk to you a little bit about Canvas at the end. So I'm just going to keep moving with these. This is assuming the beginner's mindset is larger than the example that I'm giving here, but it's a personal example that I like because I think it's going to make you think in terms of exactly what's around you, looking at things that you're very used to differently. So my mother, as she got older, was having a great deal of trouble with her lungs. And she was having greater and greater difficulty breathing. She was also having greater trouble walking. So after a natural disaster here, we rebuilt her primary bathroom and changed it from the left, which is a tub that you step over into, to more of a disabled shower, exemplified by the picture on the right, which you could walk directly into. And in theory, this was a great idea. And in theory, we both knew showers inside out. So how could we be wrong about making this change that all the doctors, all the literature said we should be doing? My mother hated that new shower. She literally could tell me, she didn't go out and publicly talk about this, but she literally would tell me how much she hated to take a shower after we made that change. I think there were multiple things going on here. I didn't fully understand them until after she passed away. When I had a great deal of trouble with my lungs, what I suddenly realized is that when you have that hot steam of a shower coming down, it can cause the experience of feeling like you're going to drown. And that is an absolutely miserable experience to go through. The other thing that new shower did was, if you look down at this area that I've dotted over in blue, it let very cold air come in very rapidly down around her feet. So here you are, you're trying to turn the shower up higher. You're getting even more steam to keep that area down below from being cold. And you're giving her more and more of a chance that she's going to have even greater difficulty breathing. So what I'm trying to say there is, take the beginner's mindset. Even if you're working with something that you think you know inside out. I felt I knew showers inside out. She felt she knew showers inside out. Go back to the beginning and look at it with fresh eyes, as though you know nothing about it at all. What, why, how? So take a look at this image for a second. What are the very most basic facts you can tell me about this image? Facts only, not theories on what he's doing. What are the facts only? Type them into chat. He's sitting on the ground. I'm going to tell you right now that the picture is aimed at being a man sitting on the floor in an airport. He may be working on a laptop. We don't know that. He's holding a laptop, though. He may be listening to music. We don't know that he's listening to music. We don't know that he's tired. So you guys are jumping ahead a little bit on me. Objective facts only. Objective facts only. So the very most basic objective facts is he's sitting on the floor. His head is facing downward. And we can tell that he does have what look like wires in his ear. So maybe we shouldn't say earbuds, but he's got wires connected to his ears. So taking it from here, good, good, good. I'm seeing more objective facts coming up here now. Good. So moving forward from, sorry about this, moving forward from those objective facts, how, what can we say about the how here? He's sitting cross-legged. He has a back against a rail. He has papers on the floor, and he has bags against his body. So those are the only facts here. Why? The reason I want to differentiate this is anything else we say is likely guessing. It's not a fact, okay? So this is important when you go to interview someone. Are you sure that what you're taking down without talking to them is really what's going on? He may be tired. He may be talking to someone. He may be listening to music. He may be having an argument and be very sad with someone he's talking to on the phone. We don't know. So the why is all guessing. And this, hopefully, is the area that's going to prompt you to want to talk to people that you're trying to learn about in the future. So here are some of the potential whys that might be going on. Is he asleep? Is he concentrating on something? Is he meditating? There are so many possibilities that are not objective facts. They're only possibilities. So think about what you might have wanted to ask him about those whys had you had the opportunity to talk to him directly. So taking that and taking it in just a slightly different direction, think about how you can interview people to request and capture stories. Here's a woman in a grocery store. Let's theorize that she's holding 2 packages of meat. Let's say they're salmon, okay? And she's putting one down and picking another up, putting another down, picking another up. What might be going on here? What might be the larger story? Why would she be choosing between packages of meat? You're not going to know the answer without asking her, because there could be so many different possibilities. Price checking, portion size. Keep going, keep going. Okay, while you keep going, I'm continuing on my water here. I don't want to start coughing on you guys again. Great quality, origin of product, great. So it could be so many different things. This is why you want to try to pull that story out from her as she's doing this. So empathy maps. Empathy maps are a division of what a person is thinking, what they're saying, what they're doing, and what they feel, okay? So the 2 that you know from interviewing someone are likely going to be the say and the do. The ones that you're going to infer and that you're going to kind of explore yourself might be the think and the feel. You won't necessarily know those for sure unless you say, hey, what are you thinking? So let's take a look at some examples here. Empathy, the says block of empathy maps might be things like, I was expecting something different, or what brand do you like? The does might be that they're checking websites. This is looking for trying to buy a television. Or they might be asking friends. Over in the thinks, some of the examples might be, do they think I'm stupid? Am I wasting too much time on this? Some of the examples of that feels block down in the lower right. Maybe they're feeling overwhelmed, or maybe they're feeling unsure who to trust. This is a way, think in terms of Post-it notes for each of these. This is a way to start better understanding what is going on for that user that you've interviewed. Now, you can start doing an empathy map after just one user, but it's okay to also do it with a couple of users and try to get a larger feel for that says, thinks, does, and feel for the users in general. The goal of building an empathy map, in fact, the goal of all of these tools that we've talked about going through this series, is to bring to light new insights into the stakeholder and the problem, and to potentially identify pain points or problems leading to needs that aren't otherwise obvious. They're also all to help you flesh out and articulate things that you don't yet know or understand. So I want to go back now to that Cleveland Clinic video. Why do you all think that was important? Why do you think that that might be something that so very many design firms would refer to or discuss when they're talking about empathy and design? Any thoughts on it? Different contexts with different problems and needs. Yes. Puts you in the user's client's shoes and lets you empathize. Sure. There's so many stories in the hospital. Yeah, there's so much more going on than we would ever be able to comprehend, right? A sequence of events, need to feel. Sure. It's taking away the say and do and focusing on the think and feel. Oh, that's an interesting point, Jordan. Okay. In a way, it is like an airport no less, isn't it? make people feel better. That's a portion of it. That's the greater goal of design. There may be more that we need to get to before we can reach that level, though. Widens the opportunities in solution development. Sure. So I want to hit you with a couple that come to mind for me. The hospital's a pretty extreme case, but you have the same kind of thing happening in a coffee shop when you have all different customers coming in with different reasons that they need their coffee. The hospital makes it clear how many different needs these patients might have. In a coffee shop, those different people probably have needs also, but realizing that you need to talk to them to understand what those needs are, that they're not going to be immediately obvious to you. Hopefully is going to be something you can reflect back on in all areas of design, not just the extreme design of a medical establishment. There are different moments in an experience. There's always more going on in every design situation than meets the eye. And your product or service, your service, your software, your app is always affecting your users. Think about how it's affecting your users and think about that interplay between what's going on in their lives and what you're trying to provide them with. It's much more complex and it is much richer than meets the service. Having said that, I hope that the Cleveland Clinic video inspires many of you to work within the medical field, which is probably one of the most challenging ones in terms of trying to do good for other people. But take it as something that gives you a view of larger design, not just the patients in a hospital. So we're down to the last couple of minutes here. I do want to give you a fast outline of what you have attached to this webinar. And also I'll put some text up for you where you can get this, but you're going to have a bunch of different resources. Actually, there are a couple resources missing from this that I will have on paper for you also. I'm going to skip the questions for 1 second. I can always come back and answer them. If you put them in the Q&A, I can answer them later. But we know about the various modules. We've kind of discussed this when we did that circle piece going around. As far as grading, you'll be joining a team. You'll have 2 discussions. You'll have 5 team assignments, 5 individual assignments, and 6 quizzes that'll total 100 points, which is how you'll be scored on this course. You've got a series of webinars. All the webinars, again, are recorded. Both the slides and the webinars will be posted online for you to see again or to see for the first time if you had to miss it. So they will be available for you. And we'll have 1 industry webinar, which is always a very interesting, a very enjoyable one, by Marco Rostelli, who's with Nestle Nespresso. Office hours are held 1 or more times per week. And again, as we started to discuss in the very beginning, they'll give you, it's a place for additional project support, reviewing the week's material, but it's up to you all. If there's something specific you want out of that time, that is open for us to do it. Generally, the objectives are learning to use that real win worth it framework and understanding needs. Capstone assignment will be a combination of all 3 courses. It will be similar to the capstone that you're doing here, but more complex. And then here, as we hit 10:30, those of you that have not yet found your way around the Canvas site, let me give you a couple fast comments on the Canvas site. Those of you that do know Canvas already, you're welcome to leave at this point. If there is a Q&A question you want to leave me over to answer later, you're also welcome to do so. When you go into Canvas, you're going to see the home. The primary thing that you'll see from the home page is the most recent assignment, the most recent announcements, which you'll also be receiving by email. You'll see the modules, which will show you the progression through the course, and those will come up one by one for you as you go through the course. You will see you'll be able to submit your assignments there. You can also see right below modules that there's a support tab. That's how you can contact program support if you have a technical problem. I can't help you with things like Canvas. They can help you with things like Canvas. I can help you with the team projects more than anything else. Here's the inbox. Do you see the inbox over here on the left? That is the best way to reach Ellie and reach me. And that's where you pull it down once you're composing a message. You'll be able to see us in the teaching assistants. And then here's that support button again if you need to contact program support. Ultimately, as you folks all know, you will get a digital certificate diploma at the end of the series. Okay, folks. Again, we're over time. I will stay for a few minutes if any of you would like me to answer some questions live. But for those of you that need to go, thank you for spending the last 90 minutes with Glenn and with me. It's been a pleasure being with you, and I look forward to seeing those of you that can make it in office hours on Thursday. Office hours, again, will be 60 minutes. The rest of the webinars, other than the final presentations, will be 60 minutes, not 90 minutes like this one is. Oh, I've got lots of questions in the Q&A. Let me see, for those of you that have decided to stay for a few minutes longer, let me see how many we can get through right now. Can we have these 8 respondents in each team on the as a subject matter expert? You know, we've never been able to pull that off, Matheswaran. It's an interesting thought. You know what we might do? Maybe we can ask them in some of the office hours to identify themselves so that those of you that want to can reach out to them when they're available. Khalid, you know, Feroz is going to be better at answering that question than I am. Feroz, is the diploma considered an accreditation? It may depend on your country. It may depend on a couple different factors. You know what I'll do, Khalid? We're going to ask program support that question, and we're going to check Glenn on how he wants to answer that one as far as the diploma overall. I'm better at answering the questions that are specific to design thinking. Arvind, if I understand this right, we will work on one idea that we agree on as a team and iterate on it for 9 months. No. Arvind, you are not committing to one idea for 9 months. Don't worry about that. For this first class, which is 8 or 9 weeks, not 9 months, most of you will commit to one idea and carry it forward. Some of the teams are going to find somewhat into the project that, wow, there are reasons that this project isn't going to work. And we do permit them to pivot. We do permit them to change the direction somewhat and explore something else that might be a better fit to carry forward on the project. So even within this course, it is okay to change direction, but you will only be doing the project here for about 8 weeks. And then the next course, you will potentially go in a different direction. Actually, in the next course, you'll be able to also change teams if you choose to. There may be a little bit less coursework in the middle course and then a greater degree of coursework in the final course also. If I understand this right, we will work on one idea that we agree on as a team and iterate. Okay, note that one, note that. Okay. What templates should we use to submit the presentations? We prefer that you use the emeritus templates, or at least make sure that you're filling in all of the required material that appears in those emeritus templates. So you will find those templates when you go in and you look at the various team projects. King Shuk from India, does persona creation come before empathy map? That's an interesting question. Perhaps in some cases it would. I think I personally would prefer to flesh out the bits and pieces of the empathy map before creating a persona, because I like the ability to move those little Post-it notes around and get a better feel for that person or persons before I figure out what the persona is. That doesn't mean that everyone is going to do it that way, but that's probably what I would choose to do were it I. Let me see, Harish. Oh, here we go. Harish, I've got pieces of your question. My career for each other is this. Similar to Cleveland Clinic video, is there a case study example for physical product empathizing process? Harish, I don't know of one. That is the reason that we choose to show the Cleveland Clinic here, is to give you an example that might draw you into looking at things like products in a different way. So no, I don't have a good example for that. I hope that you found the Cleveland Clinic a good jumping off point to start thinking that way though. What is the next steps post this seminar? Altub, go on to Canvas, make sure that you post a profile for yourself, make sure you join a team, and I'm trying to remember, you will have an individual project due soon, an individual homework of sorts due soon, and you'll have the first piece of your team project due quite soon also. So working with your team and watching all of Professor Eppinger's lectures. There are a series of his video lectures on there that you'll be seeing. Those will be the next steps that we're talking about there. I have joined a team already, but it is not reflected on my to-do completion. Avin, I'm going to suggest that on Canvas, you reach out to program support and ask them for their help with that. They could handle that technical side better than I'd be able to handle it from here. Engineering machinery design example, again, I don't have, that Cleveland Clinic video is so good that it more or less stands alone. I don't think we're going to have an easy time coming up with any other industry that has nailed it as well as that video has. So do try to use it as an example and see what you can carry forward to other areas from that, that video. Any book recommended? Hossein, there are books recommended and there are websites and there are videos all recommended at the end of each one of the modules. So look first there. And each time I do a webinar, I tend to send some text out afterwards that might have examples of recommendations for you to look for additional information also there too. So keep an eye out on the webinar page for a text that goes along with the webinar and the slides. And do take a look at the reference materials at the end of each of the modules. And Katya, Katya is having problems with the different time zones. Katya, it could have been partly that the course was just starting up and it might have been the program support was on multiple courses at the same time. Please try first hitting that support button again, and let's see if you get a rapid response back. But go ahead and email me via Canvas and tell me that you've put in that request. And if there's any issue, I can do it by email alongside also. But I suspect when you put into program support right now, you'll get an answer fairly rapidly on that. What time Thursday is the office hour, and how do we log in? Ramesh, you will receive an email, and you will also be able to find on Canvas, and probably multiple locations, a link that will take you to the office hours on Wednesday, and that will occur at 1 p.m. UTC, same starting time as our webinar today, but only 60 minutes instead of 90 minutes. Can we group the Express Capstone interest products or service into themes? You know, Adenyi, I'm going to suggest that you come to office hours and that you reach out to people with an idea of an interest. At this point, no, we don't have it set up to do via product, services, themes, etc. But if you reach out on the office hours and say, hey, does anybody else want to do this with me? We might be able to stick you with some other people that would be interested in seeing. Can we get a list of the people in South Africa? Nilesh, you will have, if you go into Canvas, either now or rather soon, you should have a little bio on every person that's in the course. And I believe where they're from is listed within that bio. Vin, I'm not sure what you're worrying about missing the 1 points for. I'll have to go back and take a look for that. Okay, thank you for your consideration. Can we use a specific problem we are facing in our current job for the project? V. Scott, here's my feeling on that. Absolutely, you can use it, but I want you to think first and make sure it's what you want to do, even if we're allowing you to do it. If you're using something from your own work, if there ever were anything patentable, it would be all your teammates that would be part of that patent. Is that okay with you? Is that okay with your company? Is it okay with your company to give out private information to a group of others that might be all around the world? If you have a team that's entirely people from your company, maybe that's less of an issue. But do think about some of the things like that before you decide to do it. The other thing is it's going to be a compromise. You and your teammates have to figure out what you're all interested in doing. So there's always the chance that they may feel that there's something else they're more interested in. Time zone is also a matter of consideration for me. And now that I realize what I've been in is hard to manage. Bursin, reach out to program support immediately on this. We are early enough that I do feel you can change to another group for the sake of a better time zone if you do so fast right now. So please do reach out to them. Nilesh, the templates were provided in PDF, not editable. Ooh, okay. So I think we can change that rather rapidly, because what that means is that that's probably my fault, not program support's fault, because I was the one that pulled the templates that you folks were to use. So I will talk to program support. Do not try to use an uneditable template. I suspect we can get you a better template quite rapidly to use if it is not an editable one. Okay, that looks like, oh, we might have one or two more questions here. Shiv, what are the deliverables of the project? The team project is the piece that I oversee. For the team project, you will submit a series of slides, and there will be a max number of slides for each submission, which is usually on the order of 11 to 15. So don't plan on turning in 50 slides. The deliverables will be a series of slides that answer or are put forward the various information that we've asked you to collect, explore, create. But there will be a template for each one of them. Is it to create product design service? Okay, so that is for each individual project, but overall, as far as what we're trying to get you to do as the team project is we're looking for you to carry forward on an idea that may become a business. We're looking for you to explore that real win worth it on an idea and see whether it has the potential for meaningful innovation that you could take to market. Now, not all of you will necessarily be thinking in terms of a market where you're going out to make money. It could be that you're going out to create a nonprofit also. That is okay within this course too. But we're looking for you to flesh out the possibilities in a rapid fashion to see whether it's worth pursuing. Okay, I hope that helps. Any last questions now before I go? Type them into Q&A. Okay, all. It has been a pleasure spending this time with you. Good luck on your projects. And again, do remember you can reach Ellie and me via email pretty much at any time if you have any problems. And you can also reach program support via the program support tab if you need any technical help. Okay, thanks all.